Mr. Herrera, can you tell us a little bit about hemp?
Hemp stands for Help Eliminate Marijuana Prohibition, and its feelings are this, that hemp is the most useful plant on earth, and that anybody that's ever read a dictionary or encyclopedia of the history of the world would be a total idiot to outlaw any use of hemp. Hemp is the #1 paper source on earth. There's no more need for cutting down trees with hemp. Hemp made all our paper until 1883. It was predicted in 1916 it would make all of our paper. And with only 1/5 to 1/7 the chemicals, and not nearly as dangerous chemicals as in wood pulp. And you could grow in Nebraska here enough to replace all those, well, what used to be Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota forests. It makes all the fiber. It's the softest, warmest, longest, strongest natural fiber on earth. It's softer than cotton, warmer than cotton, longer lasting cotton. And it's the only it's the only plant on earth that needs no fertilizers, no chemicals to make it grow. It'll grow in any soil condition better than anything else you can grow on earth, and it doesn't despoil the land. It is the #1 protein source on earth. It is the #1 essential fatty acid, which is your immune system. It makes your immune system work better than any other way you can have it work on earth. And it's the #1 way to get rid of the cholesterol in your heart from the seed of the plant, that it'll dissolve the cholesterol in your heart. No other way even works a fraction as good. In fact, the outlawing of hemp is the stupidest, most ignorant thing the human race has ever done. And I dare anybody to refute or dispute any words I say. We have a $10,000 challenge from our organization for anybody to refute the words. That it's the #1 way to make fuel. No more coal, no more oil, no more natural gas. All you need to do to make fuel is to, through pyrolysis, turn it into methane, methanol, or catalyze it back into gasoline. And all of the carbon dioxide you put up in the atmosphere this year will come out again next year. As you burn fossil fuels, everything you put up stays up for 1,000,000 years.
So your organization then is dedicated to promoting these ideas about hemp then. Are you actually promoting the smoking of marijuana?
Absolutely. You live longer if you smoke marijuana every day than if you do no drugs at all by 1.5 years. And you live 8 to 24 years longer than people that use alcohol and tobacco. So you'd have to be a damn idiot to outlaw marijuana for use. Not only that, it's the #1 medicine for glaucoma, chemotherapy, anorexia, for multiple sclerosis, for asthma, for why should children ever take theophylline or any of those drugs? Marijuana allows them to live 6 to 12 years longer, and you've got 18 million kids using bad drugs made by pharmaceuticals when you have the perfect, safest drug, according to the Judge Francis Young of the Drug Enforcement Agency law judge, that it's the safest therapeutically active substance known to mankind, that no human being has ever died prematurely of this except at the hands of police.
All right, we want to give our listeners a chance to jump in here. 402-472-2200 is the number if you have a question or comment. 402-472-2200, and you can call collect. Mrs. Kurtz, in your opinion, how much of a problem do we have here in Nebraska with marijuana?
Well, we have a severe problem, just like we do all across the United States. But I would like to say that I would be one of those who would go against the grain of what Mr. Herrera has said. When we take a look at the research that has been done on marijuana, we have to understand that there are over 2,000 chemicals that are burned when marijuana is smoked. They have only identified, researchers have, approximately 61 of these chemicals. Now, in the past 15 years, there have been countless scientific studies to determine the therapeutic benefits of cannabinoids or of cannabis, and they have found none. Well, there may be some therapeutic use as far as chemotherapy and glaucoma are concerned. They are talking about not the crude drug marijuana, but the synthetic drug THC. Now, THC, delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, is the drug that does produce the high. That is one of the few drugs that they have actually identified in marijuana. And I would also say that research has recently shown, contrary to Mr. Herrera, that marijuana does impair the immune system. And they are beginning to find a tremendous increase in the susceptibility to sexual transmitted diseases such as genital herpes and, in fact, AIDS. And this is happening among our young adolescent users.
I personally, almost every word you just said, I couldn't find any documentation for, neither can you. And I would dare you now, or in 2 weeks when I'm back here on the 11th, to come up and prove anything you just said was just total hype. First of all, the United States government in 1989 and again in 1990, and through successive tests, one done at St. Louis Medical University, showed that the immune system works better with marijuana and that the brain cells increase when you use marijuana. It's the only drug on earth that they know that increases it. From St. Louis Medical University, I have an Omni magazine, August 1989. I have the National Institute of Mental Health in 1990, marijuana receptor sites exist in the brain study. Instead of killing brain cells, it adds brain cells. And instead of hurting your immune system, it builds your immune system. And almost everything you quoted was out of reefer madness. And I'm not putting you down, Mrs. Kurtz, but I'm telling you that none of that stuff could hold scientific weight in this country. And yes, it is the most beneficial drug for cancer chemotherapy, anorexia, glaucoma, for multiple sclerosis, for asthma. It is incredibly evil to outlaw marijuana for anybody who, of the 20 million people who would benefit and extend their lives incredibly over anything you can give them. And let me just finish. You said the doctors said that they would recommend the THC synthetic. Well, doctors at Harvard just did that study about 3 months ago, and they came up with 44% of the doctors said that they would give marijuana, and 48% that they would give crude drug marijuana right then and there as their first drug, because the drug that they use, that synthetic THC produced by Lilly, Nabilone and Marinol, that it only has had a 13% success rate, and that crude drug marijuana has a 48% success rate. I think it's real wrong for you to put out this information without checking it out, because what you're doing is giving people information that could kill them.
Okay, well, thank you. Would you like to comment on that, Mr. Herrick?
Well, I just want to say that as the #1 paper source on Earth, and without any doubt of being, the United States Department of Agriculture did these studies, as the #1 paper source without ever cutting down another tree, and to grow here in Nebraska and Iowa and Kansas and Illinois and Indiana, would make the Earth completely viable to return all the carbon dioxide excess, the 2 to 9 degrees greenhouse effect increase in temperature we're going to have over the next 50 to 75 years, back to theoretically normal, because we leave the trees in the ground. There's nothing you can build on a house or run any car that you can't run better and cheaper and natural on cannabis. And for people to just outlaw cannabis for any reason whatsoever is the act of a lemming, and a lemming parent. And the people who act in this way, I don't care what government mouths come out of, or government sayings come out of it, you cannot justify taking the best paper, fuel, fiber, medicine off the face of the earth. And this lady didn't talk about medicine respectfully. I respect that she should read all these studies like I have read all these studies, and I know she hasn't read them, because if she had, she'd see it's the safest therapeutically active substance known to mankind for asthma, glaucoma, chemotherapy, anorexia, multiple sclerosis. I mean, are you just saying the heck with all that, with that information, that nobody's ever died from marijuana except from the lack of it, that people live longer that use it than people that don't, live 8 to 24 years longer than people we let use alcohol and tobacco? Now, what kind of idiot system would I follow if I gave my children your advice, ma'am?
Well, I'd like to ask you, how do you account for those people who have been killed in boating accidents or crashes, whatever, vehicle, etc.?
Well, I would love to answer. Look, throughout history and throughout all the studies of the '69, through the cancer studies, through all the American studies, to without refutation that I know of, and through hundreds of these studies, that people drove safer when they were driving on pot than those people that were doing no drugs at all, and they were driving 100 times safer than people on alcohol. They missed their freeway exits more often, I'm told, but that's about it. And instead of going like this, wow, I missed my freeway exit, they went, wow, and went off at the next exit. That's about the only negative thing, is people weren't willing to kill three lanes over to get off their freeway in time. But ma'am, they drove safer and better than people that did no drugs at all. And that's the facts. And if you go out and survey a college audience and ask them to raise their hands, how many people have had accidents straight, how many people have accidents stoned, and how many people have smoked marijuana, and how many people have ever had an accident with marijuana, you would find virtually to none to 1 or 2 but less than 1% of their hands would be up in the air. I've done this survey hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. All your information is skewed.
But on the other hand, Mr. Herrera, if you go into a treatment center that houses and is treating adolescent patients, they will tell you that all that you have just said is nothing but hype.
They will tell you, I don't know whether what I've seen in treatment centers of little kids that their parents have beat up mentally to go in and say anything they can to get out of that treatment center and to do the worst disservice to these kids. This is a drug I gave my child when he was 10 years old, and he had asthma in 1973, and I found out the asthma abilities of it, and I saw my son stop full-blown asthma attacks. I used to take him to the hospital and give him theophylline in 1 second. I didn't smoke till I was 30 years old, and after I didn't do anything illegal until I was 30 years old, and after I found out the ridiculousness of these laws, I came out for them, and I tell you, there's never been anybody that's refuted a single word that I've said in 18 years, and I have a $10,000 bet you can't either for your organization.
I'm going to break in here because we are running out of time. We do have a call.
It grows the biggest and the best and the fastest in the most soil and climate conditions and latitudes. It's the healthiest plant on the planet Earth. In fact, it's greater as paper, fiber, fuel, medicine, food, than virtually any other plant on Earth. And if you take out medicine, it's greater than all the other plants on Earth combined. This one plant, the plant that's against the law, hemp, is greater than all the other plants on Earth combined. You couldn't make as much paper, or better paper, or cheaper paper chemically, than you can out of hemp. If you took every other annual plant on the planet Earth, you wouldn't equal hemp for paper. If you put it all together, wow, that's pretty heavy. And what plant leaves the ground the healthiest of all the plants that grow on the planet Earth? Wow, it's hemp again. Wow, that's pretty strange that they got hemp outlawed and it's the best paper source by far on Earth. You never need to cut down another tree. And then you find out about fiber. All of you gone back and you've touched the hemp fiber. You've worn hemp clothing. You've seen hemp around the last year or two. It wasn't around 10 years ago, 20 years ago. My partner and I were the only people I knew that had hemp clothing that we had imported from Indonesia. And we found out it was the softest fiber on the earth, the warmest fiber on the earth, the strongest, longest lasting natural fiber on the earth. It grew the healthiest of all the fibers that grow on the planet Earth. Cotton, for instance, uses half of all the chemicals used on the planet Earth to fight pests and weeds. Boll weevils are used on one crop, half of all the chemicals put out by DuPont, Monsanto, and Dow to poison the earth, and there's lots of chemicals put out. Half of those chemicals are used on cotton. Hemp has no enemies. Hemp doesn't need any chemicals to make it grow. Any chemicals to beat the enemies of hemp. There is no enemy of hemp except the incredible ignorance of our politicians and our police. So here you got the number one paper industry on earth. Wait a minute, not just number one, it's greater than all the other possibilities for making paper. If you put them all together, wouldn't even equal a few percentage points of hemp, and none of them are healthier. The healthiest, the biggest, the strongest, the longest lasting cloth fiber on earth is also hemp. Wow. What can you think about next? Well, the number one food source on the planet Earth, wouldn't you know it? The number one food source on the earth is the hemp seed. The seed of hemp is the highest of all the 3 million foods on earth in usable protein. There's about 3 million things you could possibly eat on earth. And the highest of all those from the vegetable kingdom in usable protein, the best protein, Ediston protein, in the whole world, of all those 3 million plants, comes from the hemp seed, the marijuana.